My granddaughter's fiancé thought I only spoke broken English with a thick accent. What he didn't know was that I was born in Mexico City and didn't move to the United States until I was 32 years old. I'm perfectly bilingual. I just never bothered to correct his assumption. When I heard what he said about my granddaughter in Spanish on that phone call, I realized the man she loved was planning to destroy her completely. I just wish I'd confronted him sooner. I'm Carmen Rodriguez. I'm 71 years old and I've lived in San Antonio, Texas for the past 39 years. My husband Miguel died 6 years ago from a heart attack, leaving me alone in the house we'd built together. But I'm not really alone. My granddaughter Jessica has always been my light. Her mother, my daughter Rosa, died from cancer when Jessica was only 16. That was 11 years ago. Miguel and I raised Jessica through her last 2 years of high school, put her through college, watched her become this incredible young woman. She's 27 now, works as a graphic designer, owns her own condo, makes good money. Rosa's life insurance policy and some smart investments I helped Jessica make meant she was financially secure. She never had to struggle the way Miguel and I did when we first came to this country. Jessica is beautiful, smart, kind. She has her mother's eyes and her father's determination. After Rosa died, Jessica threw herself into building a good life. She dated here and there, but nothing serious. She was focused on her career, on making her mother proud. Then, about a year ago, she met David. David Patterson was 33, worked in finance, or so he claimed. He had that polished look that some men cultivate. Designer suits, expensive watch, perfectly styled hair. He drove a Mercedes, took Jessica to nice restaurants, bought her thoughtful gifts. Jessica was smitten. Finally, she'd tell me during our Sunday dinners, finally someone who treats me right. Someone who has his life together. I had my doubts from the first time I met him. There was something too smooth about David, too rehearsed. The way he'd compliment my cooking but barely eat it. The way he'd check his phone constantly during family dinners. The way he looked at Jessica's condo, her car, the jewelry her father had left her. It was calculating. Miguel used to say I could read people like books. 40 years of working as a nurse in emergency rooms taught me when someone was lying. David set off every alarm I had. But here's the thing. I played a role with David. From the very first dinner, I pretended my English was much worse than it actually was. I don't know why I did it initially. Maybe instinct. Maybe I wanted to see how he'd react to an immigrant grandmother with an accent, so I spoke slowly, mixed in Spanish words, pretended to struggle with complex sentences. David ate it up. He'd speak to me like I was a child. Very slow, very loud. How are you, Carmen? He'd smile that condescending smile. He never asked about my life, my work, anything. To him, I was just the old Mexican grandmother in the background. Jessica would sometimes correct him gently. Abuela understands English fine, David, but I'd wave her off, say something like, "Es okay, mija, I know what he means." I watched David relax every time I did that. Good. Let him think I was simple. Let him underestimate me. I started noticing things. Small things that added up. David would steer conversations toward Jessica's finances constantly. Have you thought about investing in this fund? What's your retirement account looking like? You should let me manage your portfolio. I work in finance, babe. I know what I'm doing. Jessica, trusting and in love, started sharing more with him. She showed him her investment statements, her savings accounts, talked about the life insurance money. I noticed David never seemed to actually go to an office. He'd take calls, sure, talk about deals and clients, but when I casually asked Jessica where his office was, she got vague. He works remotely, mostly, she'd say. Finance is different now, Abuela. Everything's digital. I noticed David had started suggesting Jessica add him to her accounts. We're getting serious, babe. Couples share finances. It's normal. Jessica hadn't done it yet, but I could see she was considering it. I noticed that David never really tried to learn Spanish. Jessica and I spoke Spanish together all the time. It was our language, our connection to Rosa, to our family. David would just smile and nod, sometimes ask what we were saying, but he never made any effort to learn even basic phrases. After a year together, he should have picked up something. But no, he'd just say, "You two have your little secret language." It's cute. That bothered me more than it should have. Miguel had learned English for us, worked so hard at it even though he was in his 30s. If David really loved Jessica, wouldn't he try to connect with that part of her life? 6 months ago, things started changing. David began talking about marriage. He'd mention it casually during dinners. When we get married, babe, after the wedding. Our kids. Jessica was glowing. She was so happy. She'd pull me aside and whisper, I think he's going to propose soon, abuela. I can feel it. My stomach would drop every time. I tried once to say something. Mija, I'd say carefully. You've only known him a year. Maybe wait a little longer? Get to know him more? But Jessica laughed. Abuela, I'm 27 years old. I know what I'm doing. David is good to me. He loves me. That's all that matters. What could I say? She was an adult. She'd made her choice. But I kept watching. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Thursday evening, about 2 months ago. Jessica had invited me and David over for dinner at her condo. She was cooking her mother's recipe for mole, so proud to share it. David was there, dressed casually for once, jeans and a polo shirt. We were in the kitchen, Jessica at the stove, me chopping vegetables, David on his phone on the couch in the living room. His phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and stood up. I need to take this work thing. He walked out onto Jessica's balcony, sliding the glass door mostly closed, but not all the way. I could hear him clearly. And he started speaking in Spanish. Perfect, fluent Spanish. Not a trace of an accent. He was speaking to someone named Carlos, and the words made my blood run cold. Esta vieja no entiende nada, he said. This old woman doesn't understand anything. Piensa que no hablo español. Es perfecta. She thinks I don't speak Spanish. It's perfect. I froze, knife in hand. Jessica was humming at the stove, completely oblivious. I kept chopping, moving mechanically, but every cell in my body was focused on that balcony. David continued. La nieta es estúpida también. Ingenua. Me muestra todos sus papeles bancarios. Tiene casi 1 millón, Carlos. 1 millón. The granddaughter is stupid too. Naive. She shows me all her bank statements. She has almost 1 million, Carlos. 1 million. My hand started shaking. I set down the knife before I cut myself. Sí, el plan es simple, David said. Me caso con ella en 2 meses. Ella firma los papeles que preparé para protección de impuestos. Son documentos que me dan acceso completo. Transfiero todo a las cuentas en las Islas Caimán. Luego divorcio. Ella nunca lo verá venir. Ya lo hice 2 veces antes. Funciona perfecto. Yes, the plan is simple. I marry her in 2 months. She signs the papers I prepared for tax protection. They're documents that give me complete access. I transfer everything to the Cayman accounts. Then, divorce. She'll never see it coming. I've done it twice before. It works perfectly. I gripped the edge of the counter. Jessica turned to me. Abuela, are you okay? You look pale. I forced a smile. Sí, mija, just a little tired. Old age, you know. David was still talking. La abuela? Por favor. She's harmless. Doesn't speak English well. Doesn't understand anything that's happening. Y la chica confía en mí completamente. Dice que me ama. Es demasiado fácil, Carlos. Mujeres con dinero y solitas siempre buscan amor. Siempre caen. The grandmother? Please. She's harmless. Doesn't speak English well. Doesn't understand anything that's happening. And the girl trusts me completely. Says she loves me. It's too easy, Carlos. Women with money and alone, always looking for love. They always fall. He laughed. It was cold, cruel. Nothing like the warm laugh he showed Jessica. 2 meses, Carlos. Entonces estaré en Belice con medio millón y ella estará llorando. No es mi problema. 2 months, Carlos. Then I'll be in Belize with 500,000, and she'll be crying. Not my problem. He hung up and came back inside, all smiles. Sorry about that. Client from the West Coast. Time zones, you know. He kissed Jessica's cheek. Smells amazing, babe. I couldn't speak. I excused myself to the bathroom and locked the door. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on the toilet lid. I wanted to march out there and scream at him in perfect Spanish. I wanted to tell Jessica everything right then. but I forced myself to breathe, to think. If I told Jessica now, what would happen? She was in love. She'd been burned by my suspicions of David before. She'd think I was jealous, overprotective, maybe even prejudiced. And David, if he knew I understood, would just deny everything. He'd say I misheard, that I was confused, that my Spanish wasn't good enough to understand a complex business call. He might even twist it to make me look bad. Crazy old woman who doesn't want her granddaughter to be happy. No, I needed proof, real proof, something Jessica couldn't deny. I came out of the bathroom and finished dinner on autopilot. I played my role perfectly, smiled at David, spoke broken English, pretended everything was fine. Inside, I was screaming. That night, after I got home, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Miguel's picture on the nightstand. "What do I do, mi amor?" I whispered. Miguel had always been the logical one. He would tell me to be smart, to get evidence, to protect our granddaughter the way we'd always protected her. The next morning, I called an old friend. Thomas Martinez was a retired police detective who'd worked in San Antonio for 30 years. We'd met years ago when I was a nurse, and he brought in a victim. We'd stayed friends. If anyone could help me, it was Thomas. "Carmen, you sound upset. What's wrong?" I told him everything. The phone call, David's Spanish, the plan. Thomas listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'll look into him. Give me his full name, everything you know." I gave him David's information. Everything Jessica had told me. His supposed company, his address, his car registration. "Carmen, I need you to do something for me," Thomas said. "Keep playing your role. Don't let him know you understand Spanish. Don't tell Jessica yet. If this guy is a professional con artist, we need to catch him with evidence. Otherwise, he'll just disappear and do this to someone else." "How long?" "Give me a week, maybe 2. I'll find out who he really is." Those 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to watch David charm my granddaughter, watch her fall deeper in love, watch her talk about wedding venues and honeymoons. She was so happy, so excited about her future with this monster. Every Sunday dinner, I had to smile and play the sweet, simple abuela who didn't understand what was happening in her own kitchen. David got bolder. He'd take calls in Spanish right in front of me, talk to Carlos about the timeline, the accounts, the divorce lawyer he already had lined up. He'd switch to English when Jessica entered the room, smooth as silk. I recorded some of it on my phone when I could, pretending to play games on my screen. Thomas called me on day 13. "Carmen, we need to meet." Not over the phone. I met him at a small cafe on the west side. He slid a folder across the table. His real name is David Patterson. That part's true. But he's not a finance professional. He's a con artist. He's done this 4 times that we know of. 4 women, all over the country. All Latinas, all with money, all ended up broke. I felt sick. "The pattern is always the same," Thomas continued. "He targets women with money, usually inheritance or life insurance. He gains their trust, proposes marriage, gets them to sign documents that give him access to their finances, then transfers everything and disappears. The Spanish thing? It's his edge. He targets Latina women whose families speak Spanish. He pretends not to understand so he can eavesdrop, gather information, plan better." How much did he steal? Total? Almost $3 million across 4 victims. He's never been caught because he's smart. Uses different aliases for the accounts, routes the money through multiple countries, knows exactly how to stay just under the radar of federal investigators. But we can stop him? We can. But we need him on tape admitting the plan. We need documentation of the false documents he's preparing for Jessica to sign, and we need to catch him before he actually transfers the money. Once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. "What do I do?" Thomas leaned forward. "Has he proposed yet?" "Not yet. But Jessica thinks it's coming soon." "Good. He'll propose, then he'll present the documents for her to sign, probably frame them as prenup stuff or tax protection. That's when we get him. I need you to get close to those documents. Photograph them if you can. And keep recording his phone calls. Every bit helps." "Can't we just go to the police now?" "With what?" "A phone call in Spanish that could be explained away. No hard evidence of fraud yet." "Carmen, I'm telling you as a former cop, We need more. We need him caught red-handed. I spent the next 3 weeks in agony. David proposed on a Friday night. Jessica called me crying happy tears. "Abuela," he proposed. "We're getting married." I congratulated her, told her I was so happy, felt like I was dying inside. David came to my house the next day. Jessica wanted to show me the ring, make plans. David sat on my couch, all smiles. "Carmen, I want to ask for your blessing. Jessica means everything to me. I want to make her happy." I wanted to vomit. Instead, I smiled and said in my broken English, "You make her happy. That is good. I give blessing." "Thank you, Carmen. That means so much." He had the audacity to hug me. Over his shoulder, I saw his phone on the coffee table. A text notification from Carlos. "Papers ready. Timeline." David pulled back and checked his phone. "Sorry, work message." He typed back, "Papers next week. Wedding in 6 weeks. We're on track." That night, David brought over a folder for Jessica. I was there for dinner, as usual. "Babe, I had my lawyer draw up some paperwork. Just standard stuff for blended finances. Since we're both bringing assets into the marriage, we need to protect each other legally." Jessica flipped through the papers. "This looks complicated." "It's just legalese. Basically, it puts all our accounts into a joint trust for tax purposes. Saves us thousands in taxes annually. My lawyer explained it all. You just need to sign here and here." My heart was pounding. Those were the papers. The fraud documents. Jessica hesitated. "I should probably have a lawyer look at these." David laughed, casual. "Babe, that'll cost like $500 for them to tell you the same thing. It's standard stuff. But if you want to wait, that's fine. No rush." "No, you're right. I trust you." She reached for a pen. I coughed loudly. Both of them looked at me. "Perdón, perdón." "Water?" I stood up, moving toward the kitchen. As I passed the table, I stumbled slightly, knocking the papers onto the floor. "Ay, lo siento." "It's okay, Carmen." Jessica bent down to pick them up. In that moment, I grabbed my phone from my pocket and snapped photos of the papers on the floor. 3 quick shots. My hands were shaking, but I got them. "Abuela, are you okay?" Jessica helped me to a chair. "Sí. Just clumsy old woman." David was watching me. For the first time, I saw something in his eyes. Suspicion? He gathered up the papers quickly. "Maybe we should do this another time, babe. Let your grandma rest." After they left, I sent the photos to Thomas. He called me 20 minutes later. "Carmen, this is it. These documents are completely fraudulent. They're not putting assets in a trust. They're signing over complete financial control to him. With this and the recordings, we have him. But we need to catch him in the act of trying to get her to sign." "How? Can you get Jessica to hold off signing for another week? Make an excuse?" "I'll try." The next Sunday, I told Jessica I wanted to throw her an engagement party before the wedding. A big family party, like we used to do. Could she wait just 2 weeks to sign the papers so we could celebrate first? Jessica, sweet Jessica, agreed. "Of course, Abuela. That's so thoughtful." David wasn't happy, but he couldn't say no without looking suspicious. During those 2 weeks, Thomas worked with federal investigators. They'd been tracking David for months, had files on his previous victims, but never enough evidence to arrest him. Now, with my recordings and the fraudulent documents, they had a case. The plan was simple. David was coming over to Jessica's condo next Friday for dinner. He'd bring the papers again, try to get her to sign. I'd be there. Federal agents would be in a van outside, recording. When David made his pitch and Jessica started to sign, they'd come in and arrest him. I barely slept that week. What if something went wrong? What if David got suspicious? What if Jessica already signed something I didn't know about? Friday arrived. I got to Jessica's condo early to help cook. David showed up at 6, all smiles, carrying flowers and wine. "Can't wait for this dinner." "And babe, I brought the papers again. My lawyer's office needs them by Monday or we'll have to redo everything. It's just a formality." Jessica looked at the folder. "Okay, let me get us some wine first." While she was in the kitchen, David's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID. "Carlos, I need to take this." He stepped onto the balcony again. This time, I stood closer. Jessica was opening wine in the kitchen, distracted. David didn't even bother closing the balcony door all the way. Carlos último paso. She signs tonight, tomorrow I start the transfers. Monday, everything's in the Cayman accounts and I'm on a plane. Last step. She signs tonight, tomorrow I start the transfers. Monday, everything's in the Cayman accounts and I'm on a plane. La abuela está aquí pero no importa. She doesn't understand anything. After tonight, I never have to see her stupid face again. The grandmother is here, but it doesn't matter. She doesn't understand anything. After tonight, I never have to see her stupid face again. I'd had enough. Jessica came out of the kitchen with wine glasses. David was walking back in from the balcony. He sat down, pulled out the papers, gave Jessica his most charming smile. Okay, babe, let's just get this done quick so we can enjoy dinner. Jessica reached for the pen. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly. Both of them looked at me. Jessica, mi amor, I said, don't sign those papers. Abuela, it's okay. It's just paperwork. I looked directly at David and switched to perfect Spanish. No accent, no hesitation, no son papeles legales. Son documentos fraudulentos que le dan acceso total a tu dinero para robarlo. They're not legal papers. They're fraudulent documents that give him total access to your money so he can steal it. David's face went white. Jessica stared at me. Abuela, what? I continued in Spanish, my eyes locked on David. Tu prometido no es quien dice ser. Es un estafador profesional. Ha hecho esto 4 veces antes. Habla español perfectamente. He escuchado cada palabra de sus llamadas telefónicas durante 2 meses. Your fiancé is not who he says he is. He's a professional con artist. He's done this 4 times before. He speaks Spanish perfectly. I've heard every word of his phone calls for 2 months. David stood up, his mask cracking. Carmen, you're confused. You don't understand. I switched to perfect English. I understand perfectly. I was born in Mexico City. I'm perfectly bilingual. I've just been letting you think I was a simple old woman who couldn't understand you. Every phone call with Carlos, every conversation about stealing Jessica's money, every cruel word you said about my granddaughter and me, I understood all of it, and I recorded it. Jessica's face crumbled. What is she talking about, David? David tried to recover. Babe, your grandmother is obviously confused. She's old. Maybe she's... Don't you dare, I cut him off. Don't you dare say I'm senile. I'm 71 years old and sharper than you'll ever be. There was a knock at the door. Thomas and 2 federal agents came in, badges out. David Patterson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit theft. David tried to run toward the back door. An agent blocked him. They cuffed him right there in Jessica's living room. Jessica was sobbing. Abuela, I don't understand. Agent Morrison, a woman about my age, explained everything while they processed David. The 4 previous victims, the stolen money, the fraudulent documents, my recordings, the 2-month investigation. Miss Rodriguez, she told Jessica gently, your grandmother just saved you from losing everything. Mr. Patterson here has stolen over $3 million from 4 women. You were going to be number 5. David was screaming as they let him out. This is entrapment. That old bitch is lying. I walked up to him, looked him dead in the eye, and said in perfect Spanish, I'm not lying, and I'm not a bitch. I'm just a grandmother who loved her granddaughter enough to be smarter than you. Then I smiled. Enjoy prison. After everyone left, Jessica collapsed on her couch. She'd stopped crying but looked hollowed out. I loved him, she whispered. I really thought he loved me. I know, Mia. The house, Abuela, my savings, Mom's life insurance. He almost got everything. Everything Mom and Dad left for me. But he didn't. It's all still yours. She looked up at me with red eyes. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was just a suspicious old grandmother who didn't want you to be happy? She thought about that. I probably would have been mad. Thought you were being dramatic. Exactly. I needed proof you couldn't deny. I needed to protect you in a way that would actually work. How did you know? I told her everything. The phone call, the recordings, Thomas, the federal investigation. She listened, tears falling again. I feel so stupid, she finally said. You're not stupid. You're trusting. You have a good heart. He's a professional predator. This is what he does." I sat beside her, held her hand. "You know what your mother would say right now?" "What?" "She'd say that you're lucky to have family who fights for you, who sees the dangers you can't see, who loves you enough to be patient and smart and protective." Jessica leaned into me, crying on my shoulder like she hadn't since she was a teenager. "Thank you, Abuela. Thank you for saving me." That's what family does, Mija. We protect each other. The trial took 6 months. Thomas and I both testified. My recordings were the key evidence, along with the fraudulent documents and testimony from David's previous victims. Women like Jessica, all Latinas, all trusting, all nearly destroyed. David Patterson got 18 years in federal prison. No parole. Judge Rodriguez, coincidentally also Latina, made a point during sentencing. "Mr. Patterson, you targeted women of color, specifically Latinas, believing they would be easy marks. You used their language, their culture, against them. You underestimated them and their families. This grandmother," she nodded at me, "proved you wrong. Let this sentence serve as a reminder that underestimating people is your biggest mistake." Jessica came to court every day. She needed to see it through, needed closure. On the last day, as they led David away in chains, he looked at me one final time. I stared back, unblinking. Then I spoke to him in Spanish, loud enough for the whole courtroom to hear. "Nunca subestimes a una abuela mexicana. We will always protect our families." A year has passed now. Jessica is healing. She's dating again, slowly, carefully. She makes men wait before meeting me, before sharing anything about her finances. She's learned to trust her instincts and, more importantly, to trust mine. She started taking Spanish classes again, even though she's fluent. She said she wants to honor our language, our culture, the thing that saved her. We're closer than ever now. She comes for dinner twice a week, not just Sundays. We cook together, speak Spanish together, laugh together. She told me something last week that made my heart full. "Abuela, I used to think you were just my grandmother, but you're also my protector, my investigator, my hero. You saved my entire life. And I'd do it again, Mija, 1,000 times." Here's what I want people to know, especially if you're listening and you feel invisible in your own family. If people underestimate you because of your age, your accent, your appearance, you are not powerless. The things people think make you weak, your accent, your age, your supposed simplicity, those can be your greatest weapons. Use them. I let David think I was just a simple old Mexican grandmother who barely spoke English. That assumption was his downfall. He spoke freely in Spanish in front of me, revealing his entire plan because he thought I couldn't understand. He was wrong. Never stop being observant. Never let anyone convince you that you're too old, too foreign, too irrelevant to matter. The moment they underestimate you is the moment you have the advantage. Last month, Jessica and I took a trip together. We went back to Mexico City, visited the neighborhood where I grew up. We walked the streets, ate the food, spoke the language. She met my cousins, saw where her great-grandparents lived, connected with her roots. At dinner one night in a small restaurant in Coyoacán, Jessica raised her glass. "To Abuela, my hero, my protector, my everything." I raised mine back. "To family, to never giving up, to using every tool we have to protect the ones we love." We clinked glasses. Around us, the sounds of Spanish conversations, laughter, life. This was who I was. Not a simple old woman with broken English. A survivor, a fighter, a grandmother who would do anything to protect her family. And if anyone ever tries to hurt someone I love again, well, they'll learn the same lesson David learned. Never underestimate la abuela. Never. I'm 71 years old and I'm not done yet. Not even close. I'm taking computer classes now, learning about digital security and online scams. Because the world keeps changing and predators keep evolving. But so do I. I'll always stay one step ahead. For Jessica, for my family, for all of us who've been underestimated our whole lives. Because being underestimated isn't a weakness, it's your secret weapon, and I know exactly how to use mine.